Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows. The air vibrated with excitement. Guests, dressed in their finest attire, smiled and whispered anticipation. Today was a celebration of love, a union of two souls. The air was thick with the scent of lilies and the promise of forever. The bride's smile outshone the sun. Her eyes sparkled with joy and love. In her heart she carried the dreams they had woven together, a tapestry of shared hopes and dreams. She walked towards her future, unaware of the storm about to break. At the altar the groom stood stiffly. He forced a smile, his eyes betraying his inner turmoil. His best man, sensing his unease, whispered words of encouragement, but they seemed to dissolve into the growing tension. The groom clutched the wedding band, a cold weight in his palm. It felt like a symbol of a lie he could no longer bear. The music swelled, announcing the bride's entrance. The groom's breath hitched, his gaze locked onto her, his heart aching with a love he felt was tainted by his secret. He had to speak, to confess, to free himself from the shackles of his deceit. The world seemed to hold its breath as the bride reached the altar. Tears welled in her eyes, tears of happiness and love. She looked at her groom, her heart overflowing, but before she could speak, he uttered words that shattered the fairy tale. "I can't!" he choked out, his voice barely a whisper. The words echoed in the stunned silence. The guests gasped, their murmurs rippling through the room. The bride's smile faltered, replaced by a look of utter confusion. I don't deserve her," he continued, his voice gaining strength. His eyes filled with a painful honesty met hers. "There's something you need to know." Silence descended upon the gathering. The weight of his confession hung heavy in the air, suffocating the joy that had filled the room moments before. Guests craned their necks, whispering behind cupped hands. The bride's parents, their faces etched with concern, rushed to their daughter's side. "What is this?" the bride whispered, her voice trembling with a growing fear. Her dream was turning into a nightmare, the future she envisioned crumbling before her eyes. The man she loved, the man she was about to pledge her life to, was a stranger. The groom drew a shaky breath. His gaze swept over the stunned faces of their loved ones, a silent apology forming on his lips. Years of guilt and fear had led to this moment, to this act of brutal honesty. He confessed to a past mistake, a choice made in the darkness of despair, a secret that had haunted him for years. He spoke of a child he had fathered and kept hidden, a child who was the product of a past relationship. The groom's words hung in the air, a storm cloud that had darkened their sunny day. He spoke of the guilt that had gnawed at him, the fear of losing the woman he loved, the shame that had kept him silent for so long. He revealed his motivations, his desire to build a life with the bride, a life he believed would be forever tainted by his past. He confessed his fear of losing her, of his secret driving a wedge between them. He spoke of his love, a love that demanded honesty, a love that could not bloom in the shadows of deceit. The bride stood frozen, her world shattered. The guests watched in stunned silence as the fairy tale crumbled before their eyes. The groom's confession, a desperate plea for understanding, had ripped through the illusion of their perfect day. Tears streamed down the bride's face, a mixture of betrayal and heartbreak. Her dream wedding had become a public spectacle, her heart a casualty of the groom's past. The weight of his secret, a child he had kept hidden, pressed down on her, suffocating her with its enormity. The days that followed were a blur of hushed conversations and tearful goodbyes. The wedding guests, once brimming with joy, departed with heavy hearts and whispered speculations. The families, once united in celebration, now grappled with the fallout of the groom's revelation. The bride, her heart broken, retreated into seclusion, seeking solace in the comfort of her loved ones. The groom, his confession hanging heavy in the air, faced the consequences of his choices, his dreams of a shared future, now a distant echo. In the aftermath of the wedding that wasn't, questions lingered like smoke from a dying fire. Could their love survive the weight of his secret? Could forgiveness bloom in the ashes of their shattered dreams? The path ahead was uncertain, shrouded in doubt and overshadowed by the past. The groom's confession, his act of brutal honesty, had irrevocably altered their lives, leaving behind a trail of broken hearts and unanswered questions.